Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Yellow Card Podcast. With you, as always, Chris Jones, Andrew Fasciano. It is episode 21 for the Yellow Card Podcast.
Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Hold the phone.
It is.
Hold the phone. No. Hold the phone.
It is. It's episode
Kid
21.
Kid doesn't give himself credit. Today, it's Chris Jones, Andrew Fasciano, and Diego Galvez. Didn't mention his name. Idiots. Next question.
Idiot. Well, my idiotic self is here to announce episode 21 starting now with the idiot Diego Galvez, who's also a DJ here in the city of Boston, but who cares about that? Chris Jones.
Not right now. It's Corona season.
Corona season. That's right. Chris Jones, who's been betting his life away at the Chasers podcast. If you're not following that podcast, you're doing something wrong. And Andrew Fasciano, who gives us content on Couch Guy Sports every Tuesday and every Saturday. And expect Andrew to start writing about the cycling season, which again starts, I believe, in February, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we got a live racing coming up real soon.
Exactly. But anyways, in this episode, we're gonna do a little thing different here. We're gonna do a quick rundown on the major leagues across the world, maybe 2 or 3 matches to watch out for. Of course, we got the FA Cup this weekend too, which we're excited about. And then Andrew's got a little surprise for us in the middle of the episode, which if you're listening, I suggest you continue listening because the middle of the episode will get even funner than this. So without further ado, Chris, let's do a quick rundown on the leagues across the world. Let's start with the Bundesliga. We don't give the Germans enough space in this podcast, so let's do it.
You're right. We don't, because besides the top 4, it's not that great. I'll throw the shade in there. All right. So right now, at the time we're recording, we got Bayern Munich playing Schalke 4. Andrew, give me your thoughts on this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bayern, at this point, you kind of just expect them to win pretty much every week. Obviously, that's not sustainable over the course of a whole season, but I think at this point in time, this is their league to lose this season. They shouldn't be winning. They're taking care of business today. I see that Thomas Muller has opened the scoring to make it 1-0 Bayern.
That's a name, dude. Thomas Muller,
Yes,
more
sir.
known for his World Cup performance than basically anything else, which is unreal.
Yeah.
He's had, if you think about players who aren't top level stars, he's had maybe one of the best careers you can have. He's won a World Cup and won Champions League with, I believe, his boyhood team Bayern. So he's living life to the fullest, Thomas Muller.
His toddlerhood, you mean, not boyhood, because the guy's like a toddler.
Isn't he
What are we doing today, boys? We're not doing this, all right? We're not doing this today. We're not doing it. I'm not standing for this.
Oh, God. Here we go.
All right. So Bayern and Schalke. Schalke is currently at the bottom of the table. Bayern is currently at the top. Schalke just has not gotten their legs going this season. They were middle of the table team last year. Right now they're at the bottom. Looks like they're going to be facing relegation, which sticks because seeing them playing in the Bundesliga is always fun. But this year it just hasn't been the case for them. And like we said, Bayern Munich, this is their league. They dominate this league like PSG dominates Liga 1. So you just expect them to come in 9 in and 9 out in this league and just win games.
So what's the score predictions that we have for this matchup?
So right now, at the time we're recording, it's 1-0. I'm going to say the final is going to be 3-0 Bayern.
Andrew?
I'll say 3-1. Little detail about Schalke is that they have an American starting up front, Matthew, who has been on a pretty incredible scoring spree. I think he has 4 or 5 goals in the last couple of games. So keep an eye out for him to continue his run. But yeah, I don't see Bayern losing this one.
I'm going to go with a 3-2 score. And the reason why I say that is because in every league, it's always that pestering bottom of the table team that always causes issues to anybody. I mean, just last week, Fulham versus United, for example. Fulham all of a sudden just looks like that gritty like team to just cause havoc through the top 5 of the Premier League. So that's why I'm saying 3-2. And I agree with Andrew. The American just looks real damn good, and he's young too. He's 19-year-old from California. So I think the future is very bright for this American. But besides that, what other matchups do we have in the Bundesliga, Chris?
So I mean, we're just going to touch upon Gladbach beating Dortmund 4-2 from Friday. Dortmund now sitting at 7th in the table. Gladbach's at 5th. So they've dropped their last 2. They've only picked up a point in their last 3. Dortmund's in a little bit of a struggle here. But also, too, we've kind of expected this from Gladbach. You know, Champions League team. They're in the round of 16. They've gotten a point in all of their last 5 games. They're 4-1-0 in their last 5. So you knew that they were going to come in and give them some trouble. Dortmund just doesn't look like the same Dortmund team as it has in the past couple seasons. You know, finally getting Haaland back is definitely big for them. But they're running when you're not getting Gio Reyna or Thomas Müller in your lineup, you're going to struggle. This team needs those guys in consistently. You know, getting a guy like Bellingham out of there, Khan, you know, you need some consistency. And for Gladbach, you know, they got two goals. No, excuse me, I'm reading it completely wrong. They scored in the 11th minute, and then Haaland scored in 22nd, 28, and then Nico Elvedi tied it, and then in the second half, Gladbach just took over, and Dortmund just was nowhere to be found. So, personally, might be time for a little bit of a shakeup in Dortmund. I know they don't like to transfer in January, but you know, we could be seeing some guys on the move coming soon.
I mean, you know.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Andrew. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask: has Dortmund finished their manager search, or are they still in the process of figuring out?
I believe they're still in the process of figuring out who it's going to be.
I believe so too.
That's definitely a lack of consistency there that you're talking about, Chris. Like that doesn't help if you don't have the manager to come in immediately.
I actually think Thomas Tuchel would be a good manager to have in Dortmund.
I would like that. Yeah, I think he could do a good job there.
Yep. But you know what? You know what's actually really interesting about the Bundesliga right now, though? The 2 teams that everybody seems to sleep on is RB Leipzig and Bayern Leverkusen. But RB Leipzig is right behind Bayern Munich with 35 points in the second place of the table. And then Leverkusen, who just recently got a little bit of reinforcements with the signing of Timothy Fosu Mensah out of Manchester United. But that was a good replacement because Santiago Arias injured himself earlier in the season. And now Leverkusen all of a sudden is picking up steam, and they look very good in third place with 32 points. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we see Leverkusen actually be part of the Champions League next year and probably cause some trouble down the line for the German league in itself. Because Bayern Munich, even though they are a dominant force, I think this year, if anything, they maybe downgraded a little bit with the signings of Eric Choupo-Moting to be like a counterpart for Robert Lewandowski, and they didn't really enforce much in the midfield. I mean, you got Douglas Costa, okay, signing at 30 years old. But then besides that, if Serge Gnabry goes down or if Leo Goretzka goes down, then who do you have in the midfield for Bayern Munich?
You get Tolucio.
You do, but by the same token, you also just lost David Alaba because he's going to be going to Real Madrid.
Yep.
So yeah, I think if you're Bayern Munich, I think you got some concerns to address throughout the lineup that you really need to improve come summer transfers. But moving on from the Bundesliga, let's talk about Serie A. I think Serie A is also another league that's starting to get real hot very fast. With the signing now of Mario Mandzukic over to AC Milan with no other than Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And then if you look at the standings, it's AC Milan at first. Surprisingly, Inter Milan at second place, only trailing behind by 2 points.
I wouldn't call it a surprise.
I call it a surprise personally because Inter Milan kind of bombed out in the Champions League.
Well, they've been doing that for the past 3 years. They've been doing it for the past 3 years, but they've played very well in the Serie A. So
but Serie A is like
it's
another...
not a big it's not a surprise to me, to be honest with you.
Okay.
They struggle against teams that aren't in the Italian league for whatever reason.
But the interesting part about the Serie A, though, is if you look at the third, fourth, fifth, sixth place, and even the seventh place, is pretty much a close race in between those spots. It's only like a point or maybe even 2 point difference. So if anybody loses, the Serie A in itself is starting to get as exciting maybe as the English Premier League in that aspect. So, Chris, I know you're a big Juventus fan. I like Juventus. I like AC Milan. I don't have a favorite team per se in the Serie A just because, I don't know. I don't watch it as often maybe.
Yeah.
But what do you got to say about Juventus and their lackluster performance for the past little bit here? Because they, in my opinion, they should really be first place.
Yeah, I mean, coming into the season, when they started off a little slow. I'll be the first to admit it. But they picked up steam as of late. They won 4 out of their last 5. Mm-hmm. They dropped 2-0 to Inter Milan last Sunday. They beat Bologna this morning 2-0.
They beat Napoli in the middle of the week, right?
They beat Napoli in the Supercoppa Italiana, mm-hmm. And now the Coppa Italia starts this week. They got Spal on Wednesday, and then they got Sampdoria on Saturday, and then the following Saturday they have Roma, and then the Saturday after that they have Napoli. So they have a tough schedule coming up. Okay. Heading into also the first leg of the round of 16 for the Champions League as well. For this league in particular, I mean, the big game I think this week that's coming up, it's a Serie A game and not a Coppa Italia game. It definitely has to be Atalanta and Lazio, which play on Sunday. They play this following Sunday at 9 a.m. It's a big game. Atalanta's in 5th, Lazio's in 7th. Mm-hmm. Only a 5-point difference between the two teams. Both teams definitely need a win here. Yeah, I mean, the Serie A is just going to be interesting down the stretch. I don't feel like it's a concern for Juventus this year. I feel like Andrea Pirlo and company are all dialed in on the Champions League, and they want to have their best form for the Champions League. But at the same time, you have to make sure that you stay in the top 4. Because it'll be the first time in I think like 9 years that Juventus doesn't hold the Serie A title.
Yeah.
And that might not sit well with the faithful fans. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And another surprising team too, though, is Roma. I think everybody continues to just kind of fall asleep at the wheel with Roma, but they're an interesting 11. They're currently in 3rd place. And if you look at it, I mean, you got Eden Dzeko, Henrik Mkhitaryan, who continues to play really good soccer. I personally don't think he should have ever left the English Premier League. I think he would have been a fascinating player to stay there. They got Chris Smalling. They got Pedro from Barcelona. Let's see who else. They got Gonzalo Villar, who's a very young midfielder with a lot of prospect coming up to him. They're a developing team. They really are. And I'd be interested to see if maybe they even land in the 2nd spot and maybe knock down Inter Milan from that 2nd spot.
Roma's just it's a hit or miss with Roma, to be completely honest with you, because the big thing for me is they have Pau Lopez as their goaltender. And there are games where he looks very, very good, and then there are games that he looks absolutely lost out there. So it's tough because, in the Coppa Italia, last week. They lost 3-0 to Spezia. Then they played them yesterday in the Serie A, and they beat them 4-3.
Mm-hmm.
How are you giving up 3 goals to Spezia, who is 15th in the table? They're just such a frustrating team. I can't put my my apples in their basket per se. But they do listen. I still think they have a realistic shot at making the Champions League next year, depending on how Atalanta, Napoli, and Lazio look also as well.
Yeah.
Because AC Milan's up right now, Inter Milan's right behind them. But like Diego said earlier, the 4-7, it's just anything can happen.
And the interesting part is that even AC Milan fell down to Atalanta yesterday, losing 3-0.
Yeah.
That was interesting because personally, I would have thought that would have been a tied game or maybe even a close win by AC Milan. I would have never expected Atalanta to beat them. But now moving on to La Liga. Luis Suarez, happy birthday, sir. Today's his official birthday. For those of you that didn't know that. Not that it matters, considering the guy is soon to hit a nursing home. But the guy continues to deliver, surprisingly. But looking at La Liga, right? I still don't get how Real Madrid is even in second place, considering all of their struggles this season. I just don't get it. It's either the players are trying to save Zinedine Zidane's coaching career, or there is some sort of morale to the players there that are just like, whatever, this guy sucks, but we don't have to suck on his behalf. Then you got a close race between Sevilla, Barcelona, and Villarreal. And then you got an intimidating Real Sociedad, who's right behind them, creeping in at 6th place. Obviously, Atletico Madrid is just continuing to dominate. I mean, they got a 14-2-1 record. Doesn't get any better than that in the Spanish La Liga. Chris, I know you're big on Atletico. Andrew, I know you got your takes on the two supposedly big franchises in the La Liga, Real Madrid and Barcelona. You guys all know I hate Zinedine Zidane with a passion. So, Chris, I'm going to start with you. What is Atletico doing correctly? What is something else that they can improve? And what do you foresee for them in the future?
I mean, hey, they're doing basically everything that they need to do. They're scoring goals and they're not allowing teams to score goals on them. In 17 games this year, they've given up a total of 7 goals in La Liga, which is outrageous because the next closest is Real Madrid and Sevilla with 16. So it's a 9-goal differential right there. And they lead the league in goal differential with 26. You know, they've won their last 5. Their schedule, they play Valencia today. That's going to be a tough game for them. But their schedule after that, I mean, if I looked at it correctly today when I did, you got Cadiz, Celta, Granada, Levante, and then you're back in the Champions League.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they got a nice, smooth schedule coming up. They don't have to play Real Madrid till March. They don't play Sevilla till April. They don't play Barcelona till May. You know, so they have complete control here. All they have to do is just keep up what they're doing. They don't need to change anything, honestly. They just need to keep up what they're doing, and they're just gonna hoist the title this year.
Yeah, and I personally think maybe even stay healthy too, because considering that matchup against Chelsea, where it's gonna be a physicality game, they can't afford having a minor setback like that happen.
The way Chelsea's looked in the past month or so makes me like Atletico Madrid in that matchup even more.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. No question about that. Andrew, what are your thoughts on La Liga thus far? What are some things that I know, like I said, you're big on Barcelona and Real Madrid. Maybe you have a special team in La Liga that you follow up even more with. But what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the top 5 at least?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge La Liga guy. I think generally speaking, I tend to kind of root for Atletico Madrid to have success and Barcelona and Real Madrid to not, just because it's been the other way around most of the time.
Yeah.
It's like the real Everton fan in him's kicking in.
Yeah,
Chaos.
exactly.
Chaos with the power teams.
Yes.
I like to see the underdogs succeed across these different leagues. But Real Madrid, I want to talk about them letting Martin Odegaard go to Arsenal on loan, because I'm not really sure what their plan is there. Like, to be honest, I haven't watched them week in, week out to really know what's gone wrong for him this season, but he had phenomenal numbers last year when I believe he was at Real Sociedad. He's still a young player. He seems like the type of player that you, as a Real Madrid, you want to keep around and continue to integrate into your squad and build for the future. I think it's a huge get for Arsenal, because they need someone like Odegaard who can create plays and add a little spark of creativity, which they've been lacking. So I don't know if either of you guys have any theories on that, but I'm kind of at a loss for why they would be letting him go right now.
It makes no sense to me, personally speaking. Martin Odegaard has the potential of being the Thomas Muller for Real Madrid, and they just let him go for no rhyme or reason. Like you said, he's young, he's talented, he put up excellent numbers when he was at Real Sociedad. He plays a good physical game, so I think Arsenal is gonna benefit like crazy out of that signing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what Zinedine Zidane is expecting out of this team. I mean, as it is, even just Eden Hazard just finally scored a goal yesterday. I mean, he's been with the team for how long now? And you just score a goal against a somewhat good Alaves. I don't know. It's concerning what Real Madrid is doing. Somehow, some way, it's kind of working out for them, considering that they're only trailing 4 points behind Atletico. But it doesn't bring that assurance that Real Madrid has always had in their back pocket. You know, like when they had Mourinho, there was always an assurance there. When they had even a crappy Rafael Benitez in there was always some sort of assurance, and there was a mindset and there was a game plan for the rest of the team. This year, it's like no idea what we're doing, no idea. Barcelona, Mr. Jones, I know you're big on Barcelona.
No, I'm not.
Well, you love Barcelona more than you love Real Madrid. I'd personally say that.
Yeah, because I would take. Listen, I have a personal grudge against Real Madrid, and
I think everybody does.
It'll never go away for the rest of my life. Let me tell you. So, yeah, if I want anybody to win the La Liga, that's not Real Madrid. I would choose Barcelona, but it's gonna be Atletico Madrid if they keep it up the way the schedule is lined up for them.
Absolutely. I don't know. Just those two teams are just. I'm actually, you know who I'm really thrilled for? Sevilla.
Yeah, I mean, after the way they started, you and I were kind of beginning to write them off, and now they're picking it back up, and they're showing why they were there in the Champions League.
So we were writing them off for a little bit, but seeing their performance in the Europa League with Lopetegui at the helm, it's like winning that Europa League for Lopetegui was such a relief to prove himself as a top-notch coach that he's always been thought of, that now even proven in La Liga, having Sevilla in third place. When was Sevilla in third place in the past 2-3 years? Barely ever. They were more bottom of the table or even middle of the table. They were
like
6th, 7th, or maybe even 10th.
Yep.
So now, I mean, they have a young core. They have a lot of potential in their lineup. Personally, the one guy that continues to be overlooked is their goalie, Bono. Like, that guy is...
He's very crucial for them.
29-year-old Canadian to begin with.
Yep.
Like, Canada actually has a little bit of prospect in their lineup. Obviously, not as much as Team USA does. But, I mean, a top-notch 29-year-old Canadian goalie in La Liga, how often is that heard of,
Never.
Yeah.
Now, before we even go into the English Premier League, which I'm not going to bother with because there's still a lot to develop this weekend, I know Andrew has a very special segment in here that we would like to get into. So, Andrew, take it away, please.
Yeah, so now that I think over half the teams in the Premier League have played 19 games, not everyone, of course, because of cancellations due to COVID and scheduling and whatnot. But we're basically reaching the midway point of the Premier League season. So we thought it would be fun to do kind of like a mini awards ceremony for the middle of the season. So we have 4 different things that we're going to do. The first is we're each going to give our best 11 of the season so far. And then we're also going to do player of the season, manager of the season, and game of the season. So I think we'll start with the best 11. I think that'll take the longest time so we can get into that. And then we'll finish up with those other 3 categories. And if you guys want, I can start with my best 11.
Please do.
So starting from the back in goal, I have Nick Pope of Burnley. For me, it came down to Emiliano Martinez of Aston Villa, Alphonse Areola of Fulham, and Nick Pope. And they've all been really good as shot stoppers this year, but Nick Pope's distribution kind of gave him a little bit of an edge for me. Before I started, I was going to say what formation I put my team into. So I'm playing kind of like a 4-1-4-1. There's a lot of midfield talent in the Premier League, so I wanted to get as much of that in there as I could.
Aggressive as hell.
That's what do you Leeds United?
I might be. So on defense, starting at left back, I have one of my personal favorite players in the league, Lucas Digne. I think he's been hurt for a decent amount of the season, but when he's in the lineup, I personally think he's the best left back in the league. He is, I believe, 3rd right now in assists per 90 minutes, and no other defender is in the top 10. He's really good creating from left back, which fits well with what Everton do, and I think he's also a really good defender. He's underrated in the air for his size, so I have him in there at left back. Then for my center back pairing, I have Yannick Vestergaard of Southampton on the left. Southampton have been pretty impressive this season. They're in 10th right now, but if you look at the number of points that they've earned for the games they've played, they've had some really good results. And Yannick Vestergaard has been a big part of that defense that has kind of propelled them forward. I think if you compare Southampton to other teams in the top 10, I think they have one of the weakest squads in the top half of the Premier League right now. And Yannick Vestergaard has been one of the brightest spots. He's scored 3 goals. I think he's been out hurt since December, so he hasn't played much, but he's been their most consistent defender when he's been in the lineup. And then my other center back, I have John Stones of Manchester City. He had a tough season last year, but I think he's taken a huge step forward this year and has solidified himself as Manchester City's best center back option. He's produced a little bit on the offensive end. He's capable of controlling the ball and distributing it either through passing or carrying it at his feet. So he's a good all-around defender, I think, not just someone who's going to sit back there and clear things out of there. So that's why I have him in my team. And then at right back, I have James Justin of Leicester City. He's only 22, so he's still very young. He's had a really great season. He's been decent on the offensive end, but he's also up there amongst the league leaders in terms of blocks and tackles and things like that. The other name that I considered at right back was Aaron Wan-Bissaka of Man United. He's had kind of similar numbers in terms of winning tackles and blocks, but I gave James Justin the edge. So that's my back 4 and goalkeeper. Moving into the midfield, in my sort of holding midfield slot, I have Pierre-Emile Højbjerg of Tottenham. I believe he has attempted the most tackles and won the most tackles of anyone in the league. So I want him in there to sit in front of my defense and protect them, considering how many offensive players I have in the rest of the team, which I will now get into. So I opted to go with kind of two cams, which is a little unorthodox, but it was what I thought best reflected who's had great seasons so far. So for my two central midfielders, I have Bruno Fernandes and Kevin De Bruyne. They've both been right up at the top in terms of goal creating actions and shot creating actions. They've both been hugely important to their teams, and both their teams are doing really well. Then out on the left, I have Jack Grealish of Aston Villa. I think he's been, if you look at one single player who's most important to a team, he might be the most important player in the Premier League right now with Aston Villa. He's first in the league in carrying the ball into the penalty area. And I think the gap between him and the second place player, who I believe is Marcus Rashford, is the equivalent of the gap between Marcus Rashford and the 39th ranked player. So he's just on another level in terms of picking up the ball and carrying it into dangerous areas. And then out on the right, I have Thomas Rodriguez, another Everton player in there. If he had not played on the right wing this season, I think he probably wouldn't quite get into my team. But because he showed some versatility and has played out on the right wing, I put him in there. I think he's another player who's been hurt a little bit, so he hasn't played every single week. But as of right now, he is leading the Premier League in goal creating actions per 90 minutes. I think he's the only player in the league to have more than one goal creating action per 90 minutes so far this season, which is very impressive. And just watching him week in and week out play for Everton, it's incredible to see his passing range. He's so important to Everton's build-up. And then up top, I have Harry Kane. He's having a career year, not just in terms of goal scoring, but also assisting. Him and Son, we talked about this last week on the podcast. They've been an incredible 1-2 punch for Tottenham. Unfortunately, I couldn't get Son into the team, but I had to take Harry Kane because I think they've been one of the best duos in the league, and Kane he's expanded his game in a really impressive way. He's gone from being kind of your stereotypical striker who's going to score a lot of goals to now he's able to drop deeper and set up teammates, and I don't think there's a better striker in the Premier League right now. So yeah, that's my best 11 based on the half season so far in the Premier League.
All right. So who do you want to go next for their best 11?
Diego, why don't you take next?
All right. Cool.
Sorry, Chris.
Chris, just take it as best for last. How
No,
about
the
that?
fingers were for Diego. It's fine.
Oh, I love fingers every now and then. So, all right. So I'm gonna go with a 4-4-2 formation just because seeing the amount of talent growing in the English Premier League and seeing the offensive game that has been developed overall, I think the 4-4-2 formation is the best suited for that. For goalie, I was stuck in between Martinez, Guaita from Crystal Palace, and Peter Schmeichel from Leicester City. I personally went with Schmeichel. He's just been very reliable for Leicester City. And you know he does a good job at holding the back for any team that you put him in. Defense wise, I gotta go with Aaron Wan-Bissaka in the right wing. He's just very versatile, very purposeful in that position. He has a good percentage of winning tackles, and I mean that slide tackle of his has just always been on point. Every now and then you get a yellow card, but I mean it is what it is. For my center backs, I'm gonna go with Fabinho. Fabinho from Liverpool has been very reliable, very useful ever since he took over that spot for Virgil van Dijk. He's just been that type of guy to kind of hold it back and for Liverpool. I like Benjamin Mendy as well from Manchester City. I think he's extremely reliable. And on the left wing, I personally am a huge fan of Sergio Reguilon from Tottenham, so I couldn't say no to him, even though my second option was gonna be Lucas Digne from Everton. In the midfield, it's impossible to ignore how talented Ilya Gundogan has been for Manchester City. When Kevin De Bruyne has lacked of his performance, Ilya has been the one that kind of brings the team back together. Um, so I'm gonna go with him. I'm gonna go with um, kind of a so my 4-4-2 would basically look like almost like a 4-3-1-2, but still being a 4-4-2. So I'm gonna go with James Rodriguez behind Bruno Fernandes, who would be in front. I think those two would have a phenomenal uh, type of creativity in that midfield, and that's exactly what you look for in the midfield. And of course, I can't count out Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish has just been phenomenal all year long, and even last year he was just phenomenal. And then for my forwards, I'm gonna go with Jamie Vardy and Harry Kane. It's impossible to avoid how good Jamie Vardy has been for Leicester City. He continues to be reliable as well, and he, in my opinion, he's very easily a top three, top five striker in the league in itself. I think what Mourinho has done with Harry Kane has been spectacular, and a point where even if I wanted to use Harry Kane as like a midfielder and transition from a 4-4-2 to a 4-5-1, I could still use Harry Kane in that position. So that's my formation overall.
Huh. That was quite intriguing, Diego. I will say. I will say. It was quite intriguing, I will say on that. So for me,
Just watch. I already predict who the top three, who the front three are going to be for Mr. Jones. He's going with a 4-3-3. I can guarantee it.
damn right, 4-3-3 with the cam in the middle. Always know. You always know. It's all about the money. All right. So,
And I'm not a chaser, just so you guys know.
ooh. So for me, the 4-3-3 with the cam in the middle, it's just the best way to create offense. And personally, for me, my goalkeeper, it's got to be Emiliano Martinez. Second in the league currently with 9 clean sheets. Big part of the reason why Aston Villa is where they are in the table currently. Have to give him credit where credit's due. So my right back, I don't think I've heard his name be mentioned out of either of you two, but I'm going to go Kyle Walker-Peters from Southampton. So he kind of got lost in the shuffle at Tottenham. He's currently second in the league in ball recoveries with 110. He does have a 57% tackle success rate. And honestly, he's thriving in Southampton. I think that he's a big part of why that defense is very tough, especially on that right side. My two center backs, I'm going Kurt Zuma and John Stones. Kurt Zuma from Chelsea. He wins at least 60% of his tackles, and he also is just a big time defender for Chelsea. If it wasn't for him, Chelsea's defense wouldn't be up to the standards that they should be. He's the one keeping them afloat right now. So for me, Kurt Zuma is a big thing. And then John Stones from Man City. I mean, Man City's been dominant all year long. You have to give credit to John Stones, who's played lights out for them. My left back, another Man City guy, João Cancelo. Basically what he does is he creates scoring chances on that wing, and that's a big part of the offense. So legit in my 4-3-3, if I have a left back that can create scoring chances for my midfielders and my wingers and strikers, I'm obviously going to take him advantage there. My two center mids, I'm going Kevin De Bruyne. 3 goals, 10 assists so far this year. He's been a big part for Man City. You got to give him credit where credit's due. And honestly, my other center mid, I don't think either one of you said him either, is Mason Mount. Mason Mount has created the most chances in midfield with 48 and has completed the most crosses in midfield at 33. His 2 goals and 3 assists don't seem like much for Chelsea, but he has been big time for them in the midfield. At only 22 years old, he's only going to get better. Obviously, my cam, Diego knows who it is. It's Bruno Fernandes. He's basically, I would say, part of maybe the sole reason, depending on how you feel about Marcus Rashford and company, on how Manchester United is at the top of the table. 11 goals, 7 assists. Guy just creates nonstop for this team. And then my front 3, I mean, look, right wing, got to get my guy Mo Salah in there, baby. Got to get my guy Mo Salah in there, baby. 13 goals, 3 assists. Liverpool desperately needs him right now, especially with the injuries that they have in the back end. He's been big time for them. He currently leads the Premier League in goals, by the way. And my left wing, unfortunately, it's not Jack Grealish. I do like Jack Grealish, but you can't – the Tottenham duo up front, you got to go with it. Son at left wing, Harry Kane, the striker. Son, 12 goals and 6 assists so far this year. Harry Kane, 12 goals and 11 assists. They've been lights out for Tottenham. They're the reason why Tottenham is where they are on the table right now. And, that is my 4-3-3 with the cam formation for the best starting 11 for the EPL so far.
Very cool. So if you're out there listening and you think we missed anyone in our teams, or you want to let us know what you think is your team, be sure to do that. You can do that on Twitter or in the YouTube comments. We'd love to hear as many other teams out there from people listening.
Also, I think we should do a little poll and see what
who has
Twitter
the
thinks
best
about
team,
it.
maybe?
Mm-hmm.
I like that. That's a good idea.
So I'm gonna text our graphics guy now to see if he can put out a graphic for us with our starting 11.
Perfect. Yeah, so we'll work on that. And now we're going to get into the individual awards for the half season so far.
Yep.
So we're going to start with player of the season. Chris, since Diego went first for the team of the season, why don't you give me your player of the season to start?
So mine's going to be a little bit of a surprise, because I feel like everybody's going to say Harry Kane because he's just been unreal. People could make an argument for Jack Grealish. People can make an argument for Bruno Fernandes, Kevin De Bruyne. I got to give the Son right now, because for me personally, if it wasn't for Son, Harry Kane wouldn't have all these assist opportunities. And if it wasn't for Son, Harry Kane might not be getting set up for all of these goals that he's scoring this year. So for me personally, Son's on pace to have 24 goals and 12 assists by the end of the year. That's insane. So for me personally, he's the best attacker and the best creator on that team right now, because all he's doing is he's taking the pressure off of Harry Kane, and Harry Kane is just thriving with it. So for me personally, my player of the year right now in the EPL is Son Heung-min.
Very cool. All right, Diego, how about you? Who's your player of the season?
I mean, for me, it's kind of predictable, honestly, but it's kind of hard to deny it too. Bruno Fernandes has just been extremely.
Bruno Fernandes.
Well, I mean, in itself, I mean,
Bruno Fernandes.
I mean, Chris, you yourself said it. Bruno Fernandes is almost part of, not almost, it's 80% of the reason why Manchester United's even in first place. He's kind of carried that whole entire team by himself. His leadership skills, he's true grit for the game, and his passion just in itself for winning are what kind of have given a new identity to Manchester United of working together as an actual team and leaving behind those egos that were kind of starting to affect in a serious way how Manchester United was going to perform, because previously Paul Pogba was the person with the biggest ego in the locker room, and Manchester United was nowhere to be found. They continue to struggle. So for me, like I said, Bruno Fernandes is the player of the season, not only because of that, but he's also won many Player of the Month awards so far with Manchester United, and he's highly regarded overall in the EPL. He's a phenomenal signing by Manchester United, and I just hope the guy continues doing what he's doing for the year.
Dude, the stat for Bruno Fernandes in Manchester United since they've become a thing in league play has been unbelievable. You know how many times they've lost in league play since they signed him in January? Last January, I should say.
Yeah.
How many times have they lost? Come on, Manchester United. You should know this.
No, I can't even remember, honestly.
3. They've lost 3 league games since getting him and generated more points than anybody else in the English Premier League.
I actually came across a stat not too long ago that was comparing him versus Cristiano Ronaldo at the time that they came in his amount of goals and assists that he has contributed to his team. It's almost triple than what Cristiano Ronaldo had to give to Manchester United at the time. Now, I think it's an unfair comparison because Manchester United at the time just had so much going on within themselves. And this year, where Bruno Fernandes has had to be the leader, I think given what next year might bring, would be a fair comparison then.
Can I give you one retort on that real quick?
Sure, please do.
Who had the better team around them at the time? Cristiano Ronaldo or Bruno Fernandes?
Cristiano Ronaldo, no question.
Okay, so that's why Bruno Fernandes is doing more, and that's why it looks bigger that way.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's an unfair comparison to kind of compare Bruno Fernandes at his current time versus Cristiano Ronaldo at that time, because again, just the team that Cristiano Ronaldo had to work with, it was a godsend for the guy. So,
yeah, okay, both good choices, Fernandes and Son. I'm going with the obvious choice, like Chris said, Harry Kane. It's not every season that you have one player who's right up at the top in both goals and assists, and Harry Kane is doing that right now. Like I said, when I was talking about why he's in my best 11, I think he's the best striker in the Premier League, and I think he's deserving of the Player of the Season award so far, based off of how productive he's been, not just in terms of scoring goals, but also creating and tying that whole attacking team together. So next we have Manager of the Season. This is an interesting one because I think it's like there's a lot more room for discussion and debate in Manager of the Season. I think pretty much not every manager in the league could win it, but there's a lot of different managers who could win it because of how close the league is. So this time, Diego, why don't you start us off with your Manager of the Season so far?
So I personally struggle with that choice very hard. I'm a big Carlo Ancelotti supporter. I think what he's done with Everton has been phenomenal. He's kind of rebuilt that magic around Everton again. I like the return of Jose Mourinho to the Premier League as well with Tottenham. I think he's done a phenomenal job. He's repurposed Harry Kane in a big way. Obviously, I admire Pep Guardiola. He's regarded as one of the best coaches in the world in itself. There's Jurgen Klopp as well, who's undeniable. But my choice is not because I'm a Manchester United fan. My choice actually is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and I have personally knocked him down a few times as well. More than a few. Yeah, no,
a few.
I know. and I think
every other week.
And I think actually a lot of us fans of Manchester United have knocked them down too. But as I've said kind of before, and as I've mentioned many times before too, I think the problems for Manchester United stem much deeper than any manager in the world. And I think what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has managed to do has kind of given United again a chance to find a new identity, stop relying so much on the past when we had Alex Ferguson, and just kind of set a new tone moving forward for their identity. I get it. He flunked out big time out of the Champions League. He had it for him, and he flunked out. He had it in their Europa League. He flunked out. But I think seeing what he's doing so far in the English Premier League, where he has just one sole focus to worry about, I really like what he's doing. So I gotta give it to him. And I think I was also caught up with Ralph Hasenhall from Southampton, because again, that was one of those teams that was kind of just highly disregarded, but seeing their performance has just been phenomenal too.
For sure, yeah. Chris, how about you? Who's your pick?
I mean, I was gonna make the argument for Ole if Diego didn't. Like since they like I just said earlier, since they got Bruno Fernandes, they've only had 3 losses in the Premier League, which is outrageously very good for them, especially with how they've been over the last couple of years. For me, there's 2 names really that you have to look at, and it's Carlo Ancelotti, who I think is going to win Manager of the Year this year, just because he doesn't have the same type of talent that he's had with other teams, and he's still producing and getting wins. They're on pace for over 70 points for the first time since 2014. I think that's big time for them. So for me, he's the front runner, but at the same time, we also have to give credit to where credit is due, and Brendan Rodgers and Leicester City deserves all the credit in the world. Oh, yeah. This guy
Yep.
Everybody writes him off year after year, and all he does is prove that he's a really good manager. And again, they lose Ben Chilwell to Chelsea. Ndidi has been hit with the injury bug this year, and they're still producing. Guys like Jamie Vardy and company are still there. They're producing for that team. Brendan Rodgers is a comfortable number 2, but I think Carlo Ancelotti is the manager of the year.
Yeah.
That's a good pick. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, of course, it's a good pick to the Everton fan.
Yeah.
Carlo Ancelotti,
You see that little smirk on Andrew? He's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's a great pick. It's a great pick."
Dude, that's a great pick. Great pick.
definitely my favorite manager in the Premier League right now, Carlo Ancelotti. But I decided to go a little bit off the beaten path. Diego, you mentioned his name already. So my choice is Ralph Hasenhüttl of Southampton. Really, since that game last season when they lost to Leicester 9-0, their turnaround after that point has been pretty incredible. I think my thought process was basically kind of trying to look at who I think is getting the most out of the least right now in the Premier League in terms of who the manager has available to him in his squad. And I think Hasenhüttl is right up there in terms of that metric. If Southampton, if they win their game in hand, they'll go back up into the top 7. I certainly did not consider them to be up in that point before the season started. I didn't expect them to be there. So I think they haven't quite overachieved to the point where they're contending for top 4, but I think their achievement this season has been really special considering the squad that they have. So that's why Ralph Hasenhüttl is my choice. Although you can't go wrong with Carlo Ancelotti. I like that pick too.
Listen. I'm going to tell you right now. When I
Here comes the statistics provided to you by Google's
Google's
cheap edition, Chris Jones.
No. So when I did my predictions on the Premier League season way back in September before they started, I had Southampton finishing 15th. Them at 10th, it looks good. Also, the big thing for me is I had Sheffield United at 11. They're in 20th. So I had Crystal Palace at 18th. Relegated, they're in 13th. So literally anything can change.
Yeah. You never know with the Premier League.
You really never know. Like I had Aston Villa, dude. At 20. I had Aston Villa at the bottom of the table this year, at the beginning of the year. And they're making me my words. Also, to go on for Andrew's point, the manager that's doing the most with the least, you got to give credit to David Moyes and West Ham as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
They're currently sitting at 7th, 9-5-5. Nobody thought. I thought they'd be a middle of the table, but I didn't think they'd be this high up on the table.
And I mean, if we're gonna be talking about doing the most with the least, then Marcelo Bielsa clears that discussion overall, because Leeds literally just finally came back to the English Premier League, and they are holding their ground. They're 12th in their Premier League with a 7-2-9 record, 23 points, and doing far better than teams that have a lot of talent in them. I mean, for example, you look at Arsenal. They're finally just starting to pick up steam, but they were doing far better than Arsenal. One could almost argue that if Leeds finds a way to kind of change the pace and Chelsea continues to do what they're doing right now, Leeds could even be better than Chelsea this year. So
it's the English Premier League, man. Anything
goes. Anything goes.
Exactly. And I actually kind of, in a way, I kind of feel bad for Nuno Espirito dos Santos. Just because Wolves last year was such a great story in itself. And then this year, unfortunately,
with the bug.
Unfortunately, Raul Jimenez got his skull cracked, which is an unfortunate injury that you don't wish upon anybody.
Them giving up Diogo Jota has not helped them at all.
Yeah.
They gave up Diogo Jota, Joao Silva, whatever his name is, hasn't been much of a contributor to Wolves.
Like you thought he was going to be?
Yeah, I thought, we seeing his previous stats in the Portuguese league, it was kind of like, okay, do you expect this guy to be a Bruno Fernandes, or do you expect him to be just a major bust? And he's proven to be a bust. But other than that, anyways, let's carry on with the segment.
Yeah. So just the final one we're going to cover is each of us are going to give our game of the season. So this
I think before you even say anything, I think Diego and I have the same game in mind.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Yeah, so this is another one that's interesting because I think we could go any number of ways. Like you could go your team's biggest win, you could go most exciting game to watch. So the possibilities are endless. I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say. And let's start with Chris this time. What's your game of the season?
It happened way back in September. Liverpool 4, Leeds 3. That was just a crazy game. It was Leeds' first Premier League game in years, and they just came out with no fucks given, and they were just scoring goals. It was a sight to see. Diego and I were literally chatting. This is when we first started the podcast. Diego and I were chatting the entire game. We were like, Leeds could literally be legit. So that's a team to watch out for. They haven't strived up to expectations since then, but they've been fun to watch this year. And I think that game was easily my game of the year.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a really good choice. Diego, how about you?
I hate to rub dirt on the wound, which is still very much open. Anyone could argue that the Tottenham beatdown on Manchester United was prolific. But again, it's Jose Mourinho who you're talking about, and Jose Mourinho does very well against top-tier teams. I'm actually going to go with the Aston Villa beatdown of 7-2 against Liverpool. And the reason being because, again, people often disregarded Aston Villa and didn't expect this to happen. Number one, you would have never thought of Ollie Watkins scoring a hat-trick against Liverpool to begin with. Secondly, Ross Barkley scoring a goal against Liverpool as well. And then thirdly, Jack Grealish with a possible hat-trick as well. 2 goals in less than 10 minutes, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And personally, Liverpool should have won this game fair and square, but if it wasn't for Mo Salah putting those 2 goals in there, it could have been a far more brutal beatdown. So I'm going to give it up to Aston Villa for game of the season, and that was back in October.
So believe it or not, that was actually also my pick, but I chose that game.
I feel the spite coming out of both of your mouths right now. Oh, I feel the spite. But hey, look, Liverpool's in the game of the year conversations. No matter what, that's what we do. We bring the way. We bring the conversations.
And I chose that game actually less because of the game itself and more because what I think it says about the league as a whole this season. A year ago, there's absolutely zero chance that Liverpool would have lost to Aston Villa 7-2.
Agreed.
Zero chance. Liverpool were miles ahead of everyone else in the league. Aston Villa was 17th, just avoided relegation at the very end of the season. So I think in some ways that game, which took place way back in October, I think it's sort of been indicative of the season as a whole, where the top teams like Liverpool have come back to earth a little bit, and the teams that were kind of struggling for survival, like Aston Villa, have taken a step forward. And there's a much stronger, maybe like 3rd through 10th right now in the Premier League than there was a year ago. That's why I'm picking that game, because it was an exciting game. Obviously, anytime a team scores 7 goals is pretty impressive, but I think it also says a lot about how wide open and unpredictable the Premier League is this season, where a team that finished 17th a year ago can beat the team that ran away with the league this season.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. I think overall, I mean, I definitely agree with Chris's 4-3 Liverpool over Leeds United. Again, it was one that nobody expected Leeds to even just score 3. Never mind against the beast
defending champs.
Yeah, against the defending champs. But that was just amazing. I actually think a runner-up to that as well was Leeds United 5 against Newcastle 2. Because Newcastle, again, has been a founding block of the English Premier League, have so much history, and I would have never expected Leeds United to just come in there and score 5 on them.
I would have made an argument for Everton Liverpool the first time they met.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a crazy game. All the drama that a Merseyside derby deserves.
Yep, agreed.
Yep. But
You know what my prediction is? I think the game of the season is still yet to come. With how close the title race is, I think we're gonna get some late end of season drama where we see like a must-win game for a team to stay in the title race, and I'm looking forward to that. I think it's
And-
going to be a phenomenal second half of the season.
I'm looking at the schedule so I can predict it right now.
And knowing my luck, it's going to be Manchester United again having to defend their spot, because just like last year, when we had to wait until Leicester City versus Manchester United to see if they would be in that 4th spot for Champions League drama, it came down to that. It came down to that because they blew the chances against
Well,
I think
listen,
it was Southampton that they faced before.
Circle the calendars, boys. May 11th, Manchester United, Leicester City. That's going to be the sweat game of the year.
That's going to be huge.
Match day 36.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
All right, boys. Any final thoughts on episode 21 here?
No, if I was you
Andrew?
guys, if I was the listeners though, all I can say is watch out for the FA Cup and watch out for the Twitch channel.
Yes.
Couch Guy
Keep your
Sports
eyes
Twitch
peeled.
channel.
Well, listen. So we've been talking over the past week after we did the first one, and with all the good positive feedbacks that we got, we would like to announce that once a week we will be on the Twitch stream watching and giving commentary on a game, and potentially we might be doing a Twitter poll every Wednesday, maybe Thursday, on a couple games that are taking place over the weekend, and you guys are going to pick on what games we're going to watch.
And potentially come into the Twitch Couch Guy Sports channel. Might be a FIFA night.
Yep.
Coming.
FIFA
So-
night might be incoming, so stay tuned for that.
The boys,
If that's
we're
the
working.
case,
We're
I'm in it.
working.
Oh, I'm gonna run train over everybody.
oh, I like to argue, lastly, that the possible game of the season is going to come down to Everton, Manchester City. May 23rd. Mark your calendar.
Listen,
That would be a big one.
that's a few months away, dude. I want to worry about tomorrow, not 4 months down the road.
I got to worry about what's next in a half hour. So, again, if you're listening, make sure you tune in into the Twitch channel, Couch Guy Sports. And as always, continue to follow the Yellow Card Podcast on Twitter. We are so close to 250 followers in less than 30 episodes. That is phenomenal, and we can't thank you enough for your support. Continue to follow Chris Jones on The Chasers or on his own personal Twitter handle, which I believe is at cjoneswho1212, if I'm not mistaken. Continue to follow Andrew's content Tuesdays and Saturdays out of couchguysports.com. Continue to follow him on his Twitter handle, AFASC, AFASC 573, if I'm not mistaken.
That's the one, yeah.
Oh yeah, and he has a note on the computer. Don't let him fool you. He's got a note on the computer after last week.
Nothing. I purposely have been tagging him on everything almost second so I can finally memorize the Twitter.
You bastard.
Oh god. And then if you'd like to follow me, please do. Diego_the DJ on Twitter, or continue to watch for my content coming out every Tuesday and every Saturday. Or hey, follow me here on the Yellow Card Podcast and Podcast Card on Twitter. With that said,
Also, if you're on YouTube watching us, make sure you're subscribing, leave comments, let us know how we're doing, please.
please do.
Also, make sure you're giving us a follow and a listen on Spotify and SoundCloud as well.
Yes, sir. So with that said, that wraps it up for episode 21. Thank you very much. And we'll be back here next week.